Michelle. I've come from a small place called Dahanu near Mumbai. I'd like to thank Jaswinder for pulling this off. We've been discussing having a MoodleMoot for the last 1.5 years on the forum, and it's really because of him that we are all here, so I'd like to thank him. I'd also like to thank him for giving me this privilege of speaking to you last. And I came to know that I was going to speak to you last 3 days ago, so I was a bit worried that there'd be no one in the audience. But it's quite a good turnout. When we started Moodle, we kept scrambling, like, are there any more Moodlers in India? What's happening with open source? And we look for people, and I mean, some of the people here are people we met. And it's been a long journey. I think at the end of the day, we should all pause a little bit and reflect about why we are here, or why some of us have opted for Moodle, and what is it that we are really trying to do, whether we are service providers, we believe in open source, we're doing social justice work like me, or we are coders, we're developers. I think all of us have a role, but sometimes we're getting a little lost in the functionality, the tools and the applications, which we all seem to be very good at. I'm overwhelmed with Shivaji University's BHAT and all those Linux terminal commands, but I think we're all somewhere together in terms of learning the functionalities, knowing open source, setting up ourselves, but what is the philosophical framework? So I'd like to spend some time in this keynote. I have about 15-20 minutes, of course sharing our experiment, and we must realize that we are setting up and using Moodle for below 12. Children are using Moodle from about 6 years in our school to 12. They are all first generation learners coming from a tribal society, so they are all Adivasi children living in mud homes, and then, as a contrast, this is where they come, and this is what kind of school we have. I'd like to share that experience as far as I can. I'd like to invite you all to our school to come and see this experiment for yourself. But before I sort of just go into a case study, we've seen a lot of case studies. I'd like to really talk about a few things that we seem to have missed today, and seem to be the reasons why we are all here. One of the fundamental things that we could talk about is what is really wrong with education, particularly in India, many parts of the world too. And critical to this discussion is understanding the fact that we are still in a system of rote learning. We're still in a competitive environment where only grades count. We're still in an environment where if you don't get into IIT, you're committing suicide. We're still in this kind of an education system that is creating individuals that have no skills, no knowledge, can only mug up a book and give an exam. As people in education technology, if you haven't understood this, then your technology is replicating the very same system that we are trying to get out of. This is very, very important, and I think no one in the whole day has actually touched upon, and some of the presentations are actually reinforcing the wrong things of the education. And I don't think that's what the open source people or the developers or the constructivist theory really says. We have to throw out rote learning, we have to throw out competitiveness, we have to build real skills in India for us as a nation to really progress. Okay, some of you who are following open source debate would have heard this concept of the cathedral versus the bazaar. There's a very famous book. It's on the open source musings on Linux. Basically, we grew up historically in a society where there was a Guruji, there was this man, and he would impart knowledge, so it was one to a few people. All those people had to be upper caste and had to be, only the religious guys knew the knowledge, and this is how knowledge was passed, one guy to a few people down there. Slowly with time, it became from one to some, it became one to a few more. Then we had mass media, we had schooling, we had formal education, and it became one to many. It was still very hierarchical, very top-down, and at the end of the day, it was, one way. But with digitization and with technology in the last 15 years, we are seeing that I'm sitting in a little village and I can build knowledge that the world can use. Martin's sitting in Perth and we are using what he's using. So the cathedral model of the Harvards and the Ivy Leagues, which some of you have shared, somebody used the word disruption, is a model that is antithesis to the world today. Okay? The open source model is the bazaar model. All open source activists will say, in the bazaar, you can sell your wares, everyone can take what they like, what works for you works for you. Knowledge is freely shared, it is collaboratively built, and we are all at some level equal. Okay, so I'd really like you to mull over these points as we go home today, and I would have really appreciated if it was a 2-day conference to get to talk to some more of you, but please think about what is wrong with education, and am I, even as a service provider, providing solutions that are furthering the wrong in the education. And that was a big worrying through the day. The second question is, so there's lots of people in India today very, very excited, including our minister, Smriti running e-learning and ed tech. Many of them don't really know what all this means. When we tell people we're using technology, they think we're putting up some videos for these little poor children who are sitting there. And as he said, videos is not e-learning. Putting a couple of videos is simply putting videos like a theater. You just, happen to have shorter videos because of YouTube. There's no learning happening. So there's the buzzword about e-learning, about technology, about ed-tech, and flipped classroom, and interactive whiteboards, and everybody's jumping on that bandwagon without understanding the depth, without getting into the nitty-gritties of what it is, and for me as an institution, as an individual, to absorb this or to move into this technologically based learning. For us who are excited, or we believe that we're excited for the right reasons, we believe that the technology jump in education in India is giving us the ability and giving us the space to fulfill those values that we think education has stood for, which is peer-to-peer learning, and I'll talk a little bit about it more. Most other people who are jumping on this bandwagon haven't understood really why are we so excited about technology. Are we doing anything different with technology? Are you bringing out the same rat race human beings or human beings part of the competitive field? Okay, so please think about why we're so excited. For us, and I think as a country, as people in education is a social issue at the end of the day. Unfortunately, as I was sharing with Martin, India is going down the path of America, where we are commodifying education, where privatization has come in. If you can pay, you can become an engineer and doctor. But let us, people who are subscribing to an open source philosophy, ask that what is the kind of role education and technology can really play in radically changing the way education happens. Okay, I live in a village. The Zilla Parishad school down the road from where we are is depressing. Teachers are getting 6th pay commission, they're getting 30,000 rupees a month. They come, it's not like Bihar, and the teachers come to school in Maharashtra, but there is nothing happening in that space. Okay, and the government is not spending enough on education, and it should. Private players are grappling, commodification is happening, so there is a tendency for earning out of the e-learning, as someone said. And maybe somewhere we're forgetting that what is the role of education for a country like ours. And today, education along with technology, in our opinion, has a huge role to play in changing the way India is. I'd like to ask all of you this big question, for you and for us, and not just Moodle, but Moodle is a good platform to discuss. Is it a sociological project or a technological project? And I'm not going to answer this right now. Something for you to think about. I know many of you don't come from the background we do, but please do think, because education at the end of the day is for the benefit of society, whether you're making an app or you're a service provider. So is education technology a technology project or a sociological one? These are some thoughts that I added to the presentation because I was at the end. And I would really have liked to talk much longer on this, so I put it in a very casual way. But there's a big problem in our country because we grow up in a society which tells us that you have to think from. They don't know what is radio frequency. If you give them a transmitter, they don't know how to solder it. They're all here. And then they go to their MBAs, and then they sit behind in finance companies. So this situation, Mr. Himmat Singh is identifying what I'm saying. The situation of this content as not distinct from technology is a serious problem in this country. You will have universities call the IT guy and put some edtech. Okay, why can't in universities, why can't all of us figure out how to set up a lab server? How difficult could it be? The internet is at your doorstep. You can learn HTML5, you can learn PHP programming, you can learn anything. No, but that's not I'm the content, I'm the teacher, I'm the administrator. I will manage and somebody else will do IT for me. Okay, so this whole thing of where is the IT guy is going to create a huge problem in this country. If we cannot get a little bit into, let's pick up our socks ourselves. Okay, the education I got from the top university in India was rubbish. I'm an IIT graduate, I can't code for nuts. I'm an electronics engineer, I have no idea how this transmitter works. I'm a computer science guy, I don't know what to do with a LAN. Okay, I'm a plumber, and I've learned, without theory, I'm actually, putting the pipes together. We are not going to move as a country. And this is really the biggest serious problem, which is where sometimes I have a little mistrust and a little problem with service providers, and I'm not going to talk too much about it because I've been warned by some people not to, put them in their place. But I'd like to share very quickly. A college in Bombay calls me up and says, one service provider company charged me 2 lakhs. For what? To install Moodle. We don't know where it is, we don't know where's the password, we don't know what's happening. Can you help us? Username and passwords are denied. This is the service providing in India. This is how you control. You're talking about open source and you don't give the password and the username to the person who's paid you 2 lakhs to set up Moodle, which is, I'm not talking about the fee you can charge for your services. Okay, so let's be honest about where we are as a country and what's happening with service providers and with the way we, and of course the institution is completely to blame, because I asked them, so what do you want to do after you get the Moodle? Do you know what courses you want to host? Do you have teachers who understand technology? Can somebody even record a video? Do you have audio facilities? Do you have, so they don't know what we want to do Moodle. So obviously somebody is going to fool you like this, right? Because we are the country with the maximum amount of con men, right? Okay, so these are some of the things. The final and most important thing is for us, e-learning, digitization technology, of which Moodle is a part, are really very powerful ways to build all that education should actually do, which is access, equity, building collaborative knowledge, and finally changing society. Okay, so those were really big questions. We need 2-3 days more to talk about, and I'm not now going to go into them. Now I'm going to talk about our experiment in Dahanu. Most people are very surprised that we were considering technology for young children, and definitely technology for poor children, because poor children have, of course, never had access to a laptop. So the question was, why should we digitize primary education? Can we use technology with learners as young as 6? Can young learners really use this technology? Should they be using it? Why should they use it? What kind of LMS? What are the benefits? And why an open source? So the presentation will kind of cover some of these points. This is our school. This is the way we function. These are little children who are working on individual laptops. Just to give you a background, this school is located in Maharashtra in a taluka called Dahanu, which is predominantly 68 or 70% of the people are tribal, growing rice through the year. The literacy indicators could be as low as 30-40%. They are all declared as scheduled tribes, part of the Constitution of India. Health indicators very poor, malnutrition deaths, infant mortality, poor literacy, as I said. Children's parents would generally be class 5, class 10, class 7, educated locally or maybe not educated at all. And we are sort of one of those regions in India which is kind of forgotten. And no services and kind of typical of what you would feel would be a rural area. The problem in such areas, and this is true again of the problem all over the country, including Delhi, including poorer areas of Delhi, poorer areas of Bombay, and in my opinion including private education as well, that public education is in the local language, it's still in the local language, so children are unable to cope with new knowledge which is unfortunately globally only being developed in English. So this is one of the struggles. The curriculum is completely out of context. It is theoretical, it is rote learning, the child is bored, there is absolutely no stimulation. In poorer schools and where there are children from poorer backgrounds, the hierarchy and exclusion are very high. The same values that the society has about them are perpetuated through education. There is hitting and all the other things that you all know. And at the end of the day, as I said earlier, young people churn out with no skill for actually working in the society, in the modern world especially, and neither any knowledge, not that they have gained any knowledge. This is one of the roads in our village, and this is the Zilla Parishad school. So when we were starting out, we said, okay, so what do we do? Our dropout rate in our area is very high. Tribal children go up to class 5, class 6, totally irrelevant, they need to earn money, they simply drop out. So we said that we'll create an alternative and unconventional space where children can be free, feel happy. We will use a common sense approach to education. No one in the team has an education background. No one has a full-fledged technology background. We're all learning and we're all DIY. We'll use no textbooks and we'll do no rote learning at all. And we'll try to create an atmosphere of equality, because at the end of the day, education for tribal children is about becoming equal. So we experimented with lots of pedagogies. We do work on land, we do farming, we do storytelling, drama, all the things that you would have heard about. These are just some of the examples. We play a lot of Scrabble so that kids learn English, a lot of game-based learning. Sometimes when we don't have enough laptops, so classes are conducted with in a small kind of way. And then we started with activity-based learning, and then we realized that this is fine, but we're not going to really move ahead. Children are not really going to get what they could have got in today's world. Plus, let me tell you, let me say this very openly, teachers are a big problem in Indian society. You simply do not get just regular, well-exposed, modern, outward-looking teachers. The B.Ed and the D.Ed training is so pathetic, and you have to literally not, I was just telling somebody, do not take B.Eds and D.Eds because they just have not grown, they're not matured, they don't see what is happening in education. So why did we opt for technology? Because as I said, the reason to do EdTech and the reason to look at open source, the reason to adopt Moodle has to be much larger than just the system. We strongly believe in access. Our children are across we are in what is called the media dark region. Children have no access to technology. BSNL is not laying new lines into villages. We don't have broadband. We have broadband in certain areas, and again, underprivileged communities will be at the mercy of Vodafone and your Airtel. So access and equity is a big issue for children. Individualized learning. Formal schools are a problem. We have 50 kids in a room. You're just forced to learn whatever the teacher tells you. You're supposed to go home. There's no real genuine learning taking place in any school. So we said we have to do individualized learning. How do you do individualized learning? By technology. We have to do peer learning because we come from the open source philosophy. We don't want a top-down approach. We think that we can learn from each other. As I said, it's the bazaar. The cathedral days are over. This is the bazaar. Knowledge should be collaboratively built. I don't need discovery channels, paid content in my school. We live in a village, we have mountains, we have rivers, we can very well create our own content. So technology can enable us collaborative knowledge building. And very, very important, which no one has talked about in this asynchronous debate, but schools in India follow a linear hierarchical system of education. So you have geography, then you have science, and you have maths, and then you come out into the world, and the world is interdisciplinary. And in school you've gone through this segregated kind of learning. So we don't want a linear system and we don't want hierarchy. We didn't want it in the school. We wanted to break it. So the only way again that you could break it is by using technology, whatever the technology is. The hierarchy and the linearness. So you have an interdisciplinary, non-linear approach to education. You can do it only with technology. And of course for us, bridging the digital divide. So when we started, we didn't know about an LMS, and we were looking at the world, and the world was so exciting, and there's so much happening in education, and we were wondering what to do. So we followed the typical path. We use Linux, we use Ubuntu. We don't have a single Windows machine in our campus. We can't afford Mac, and we started looking at what are the options, open source options within the Ubuntu and the Linux framework for young children to use, which were ready. So we use a couple of softwares. You must please look at them. They're excellent. We use a software called Compris, which is developed in France by an open source guy for ages 2 to 10. It covers English, maths, geography, logic, puzzles, all sorts of things. We use something called TuxPaint. That little drawing has been done on a software called TuxPaint. TuxPaint is an open source. Tux is the mascot of Linux. TuxPaint has been developed by a developer called Bill in America. He got some award for it. And we started using these ready materials, which are great. We still use them. But then we realized that this is not contextual. I mean, Bill is an American and Compris is French. So we need stuff that our kids like. I mean, how do you teach? How do you get children to get motivated? How do you do active learning, as somebody said in the morning? You can't have ready material. Okay, it's a game, it's fun and all, but where is the learner's participation? Where is the individualized learner? Where is his knowledge contribution? So we started looking at making children producers of knowledge and not consumers of knowledge, and we started exploring what else could be. Some of the other more administrative needs were that we need grading, we need infrastructure, we need structure, and a serious lack of teachers because no one wants to come in this village where we are. So we don't have people. Just ready software is not enough. Therefore, we tended to move towards using an LMS. At that time, there was Canvas. Canvas was just coming up. Blackboard was out of question. And we opted philosophically, because of our philosophical connection with what we read on Moodle, both about the pedagogy, as it being a constructivist pedagogy, we really liked that philosophy. That's exactly what we wanted to do, and that's exactly what we believed in. And we thought it's wonderful that software developers somewhere else in the world also think about education and pedagogy. So we were a bit immature in our thinking. And we opted for Moodle because of that and because of its open source nature. And we realized that, again, if you want a tribal child, like someone said, you can keep doing the quizzes, you can keep doing the assessments, you can go back to the content. 6-year-old could be sitting on X course, 8-year-old could be sitting on Y course, and section 4 on one course. So reinforcement especially for first generation learners, became very critical because retention is low. They simply don't have any facilities at home. They're going back to their mother homes. So what do you do? And someone said this in the morning, that technology can bring the world to the tribal child. So that's why we opted for an LMS. And I'll just continue this discussion, that basically the teacher's role was removed. We no longer need teachers, we need facilitators, which anyone can facilitate, little common sense, some English, some digital tools, you can be trained. You don't need hardcore domain experts. We like them, but we simply don't get them. So the teacher's role changed to facilitator, the hierarchy of the classroom was removed. We could have course creators anywhere in the world. And this is what we are doing. We are telling people, can you create a course for us on graphical imagery and how children should do graphics? Or can you create a course on dance? Or can you do a hula hoop performance and upload it on our LMS? So we became available to the world became available, and course creators could be anywhere. We also thought that, this is the problem, right? Education is so redundant. The child is writing something on the board, the minute she goes home, even a poor child has access to a smartphone today, even a poor child. So where is education being relevant or contemporary? You simply cannot learn in that environment anymore. Someone said, right? Learning, you've completely changed the way learning has, you've changed how you learn. And if you're going to teach and learn in the same way, nobody is going to learn, whether you're poor or rich. So how can we make education contemporary, and how can we make it meaningful? Was one of the reasons why we chose the LMS. Before we chose LMS, and as an institution, as people, we've always been into open source. And it was not natural that we go the open source way. But for us, the school is not just using Moodle by the way it happens to be open source, but it's making a statement that underprivileged children are denied knowledge in this world because the closed source world actually keeps knowledge away from the rest of the world and expects you to either pay for it or to simply not have access to it. And the open source world is another world that's basically saying that we are going to create another world because we are all together in this, and we believe that knowledge is for sharing and it cannot be controlled by a few. So it's very critical to internalize this philosophy if you are offering Moodle to an institution, because some of you may be offering it purely because it's free. And please note that the free is not the money free. We are happy to pay people to do development, but the free isn't freedom. We don't control it. We don't control the source code. You're happy to change it. You're happy to develop it. And that philosophical approach was why we've chosen Moodle. The open source movement also says that learners are not simply consumers of material, of entertainment, of videos, of Facebook or whatever. Learners are producers. The open source movement today is saying you need to get kids to code in 6 years. And we are grappling with teaching coding because coding is like another language. So a 7-year-old who struggles in English is taking lessons from code.org and he's doing it brilliantly. Okay, so where is the education sector talking about coding? Where is computer science being started at young level in schools? But Moodle allows us to do that. Code.org is allowing us to do that. So how can our children in an education system be part of a modern world where knowing a language is as important, knowing a computer language is as important as knowing English? So that's the reason we chose open source. Our LMS is called My Big Campus. We use the same theme as Shuloni University. It's a PCU theme. We just found it convenient. You can check it right now, it's available. We started off in 2012. We are literally like 2 or 4 people who actually have worked on Moodle, setting it up, the server and everything. And it's been a very long and challenging journey. Most of the challenges are from the teachers, from the people who simply cannot get this philosophy or get enhancing their skills. There's a resistance to enhancing skills. So the way we run now is that we have a virtual learning site, we have an LMS. We develop the courses in-house. For some, as I said, we don't have textbooks, but what we do is for some very core academic courses, like geometry, English, maths, we have taken the entire NCERT syllabus. And currently our geometry course from class 1 to class 6 is complete. It continues in the spirit of activity-based learning. So please understand that it's not just putting a textbook there, or not just putting a video, or not just putting. If you have, and I'll show you an example, if NCERT says that a 6-year-old child should learn about shapes, then in our course, in the classroom activity or in an assignment, the child is supposed to go for lunch and identify all the shapes that are circular, square, rectangle, and the teacher is supposed to click a photograph with the child. And the child comes back and uploads his photo along with text saying that I'll show you the assignment how we do it, I saw X, Y, Z. So the same spirit of the school, which is activity-based learning, learner-driven, child-centered, is being implemented because we have an LMS like Moodle. We have just completed our geometry course. We are looking at putting it up in the moodleshare.net site. The rest of the course creation is a big struggle. We are slowly getting there in terms of digitizing the entire primary curriculum from class 1 to class 6 as per our needs. So if it's a tribal child and we use the river, as per our local contextual needs. However, things like maths and all can be, generic. So the environment is a blended learning environment. We still have people coming into a classroom, we have facilitators, we have people who help navigate. Because of bandwidth, we have 9 Mbps connection from BSNL, so we have problems with big blue button, we can't see somebody's face, we can hear them, those kind of things. So audio and videos are generally watched collectively or heard collectively on the speaker. But then eventually the student has to go back to his or her machine and conduct the basic, as you're saying, the quizzes, the lesson plans, the assignments, and so on and so forth. This is a screenshot. I'll just go through some screenshots very quickly. This is the same BCU theme that Shodomi University uses. We customized it for ourselves. We've used the blog a little interestingly. So when we believe in being out in the field. So we took the children to the police station. As soon as we come back, we put up images. We put up a really simple text. And this is how we teach literacy because they're excited. They got to hold a gun in the police station. And then we actually make them comment. So I'm just going to read out one child's comment, and we get to know their English level immediately. So a little 9-year-old tribal child has to write in English, has to read in English, has to navigate a modern environment. So she says, first when I had to go to the police station, then I was feeling scared. But now I'm feeling happy and I didn't get to touch the big gun. We met police officers. Okay? This is the level of English of a 9-year-old in a tribal region who has no English exposure. But because it's something that she did, and because it's somewhere that she went, and she has to now talk about it, it's far easier for them to learn. Any one of us, we are happy to write and respond 2 lines on a blog. There's no pressure, there's no text. So we use the blog, children go home. There are very few children who seem to have got 3G on their father's phone, and they're super excited. So they kind of try and blog. So we've allowed them to use the blog. So we've used the blog with very young children. They write wrong English, they write wrong grammar, but they write. So it's a big achievement for us. This is a typical blended classroom, young children on their own machines. Yeah, so this is just what I was going to tell you, that this is the kind of lunch assignment that we have that identify all the different shapes you see. Students can be guided by the teacher. Each student to come back and type the names of the shapes they saw as an online text. If the teacher likes, she can help the student to take photos of the object and upload on this page. So again, the child is excited. She has to take photos of the plate, of the bowls, and we try to keep as much, going out of the class in the same spirit of activity-based learning. So these are some of, very simple. So when she comes back, she writes a plate, the gas ring, and the serving bowls are like circles. The water filter is a rectangle. The new whiteboard is also a rectangle. Okay, so this is again a 9-year-old, and you can immediately see that she's thinking of shapes around her. Shapes is not being taught in a theoretical manner because everyone teaches and no one knows why they're teaching circle and square and rectangle is part of the curricula. So we make the teachers think that when you're walking, you look at the shape. It's not a theoretical class. So again, the LMS has allowed us to fulfill that philosophy. When the course creator comes, we have a template which says that you have to have a minimum of 3 classroom activities, which could be individual or group-based. You need to have 3 digital activities with the child as alone, whether it's using a paint tool like TuxPaint or putting an online assignment or a quiz or answering a quiz. So digital tools combined with what we were doing earlier of hands-on work, field visits, independent work is how we are developing the Moodle. We really see children becoming independent learners by the time they are 12 because we're giving them English, reading, writing and comprehension as the basic start. A little bit of maths, a little bit of science, and we feel the world is open to them. They should tell us, I want to know about snakes, and we should put up a course on snakes rather than dump them with information that they may not be interested in. So if 2 kids are learning snakes, 2 kids are learning about the sun, that's how we are looking at developing Moodle, which we feel will be more successful. As I said, some of the outcomes, and we are seeing the results, we just started like 2 years ago, is that many of you who come from multilingual backgrounds or who work in spaces, you must understand that English is the biggest challenge for this country. And for us to just get poor, underprivileged children who are part of that 8% of the scheduled tribes of India to simply read, write and comprehend English in a fair way is a very big achievement. There are reports every year that 5th standard children, ASA does this report, cannot read basic English, cannot do basic maths. So one of the outcomes of the LMS is they all want to log in, they are super motivated. So they have to tell them, you have to read and write English, you have to comprehend what you're reading. You can't just be reading it in a rote way. Learning takes place at an individual pace. We can tell the student, you can come back to this, if you haven't understood it, you can do that, you can do that. Learning is live. When we go, as I said, we go for field visits. There's a live atmosphere in the school because they are all excited. You can put a blog, it's a real community. Just like you are having an online community, but you have a real community. And you add content as per the children's need. You do not necessarily dump content onto them. So you can make bilingual videos or bilingual text. So learning is live, very important. Some of the other outcomes is that, as I said, the hierarchy is broken. The chat module breaks the hierarchy. The teacher is relaxed because the burden of delivering this content is no longer on her. She realizes that education today is not about delivery of content. It is not. That the content is available. What is it that you are doing to make the individual a learner, somebody curious, somebody willing to persevere, somebody willing to learn how to install a LAMP server, somebody willing to learn animation? How do you put that value? Because that's where the world is going. The interdisciplinary learning we are able to achieve. We can do what we like, and we love the fact that in Moodle you can have an English story and the story could go into biology, science. That whole interdisciplinary philosophy is simply imbibed into the system. There's huge amount of motivation for us more because underprivileged children are just thrilled to have a machine. If we deny them the laptop one morning, then they are all asking us that, why are you still chatting and where are the laptops? So, children are buying their own laptops. We tell the parents that, even in rural areas in India, there is more money than there was. They know they can afford a laptop, they don't know what to do with it. So we have parents who have bought laptops. And 8-year-old children come with their laptops in their bag, and we are really working and saying, you need to buy a laptop. You don't have to pay us high fees, but you need to pay a laptop. Kids are happy to have their own digital gadgets, and they love working on laptops. This is a Tux Paint again, used. You can check out Tux Paint, it's freely available, you can download it. It's a really nice tool. So what's happening is right now we, through this LMS, are reaching only 150 children. We believe in quality education, so we simply don't want to increase the numbers. If you're saying individual learning and you want to learn about snakes and you want to learn about Himalayas and you want to learn photography, then it's impossible if we have numbers. So we've kept the number gains low, and our vision is that eventually we move to what is called an online learning space. We move to a school without walls. So we're looking at wireless mesh networking. So we have, say our school has hosts all the video server, the Moodle server and all the servers, and then through a wireless mesh, we actually make all the content available to the homes of the children. They have to invest in routers, and we have to basically put the RTD infrastructure of all the antennas. And whatever they do at home, whatever they do in school, they can do at home. Now this seems much bigger for us because if you were to do this in Bombay, then everyone has internet. You can go home and you can log into my big campus, right? But the challenge in India is half of the country doesn't have internet still. They all want it, they want access to information, but they don't have it. So we have to set up a local internet, which is an educational internet on which children we can have our own version of Facebook, we can have the Moodle server, we can have telephony, you can have video, the kind of things you can do. And children can, and then therefore not just children, but their brothers and sisters and their uncle and aunties can also participate in a larger network. This is not difficult to do, but we want a buy-in from the community. We don't want to do it as a philanthropic project, it doesn't cost a lot. We want the community to tell us that I want that router, wo daal ke do mujhe bhi work karna hai. That's when the technology will really spread, and they should invest in the routers. So this is the next phase. For people who can't afford laptops, we're looking at Raspberry Pis. We've invested in a couple and we are dabbling. We have reverse problem of Raspberry Pi because with Raspberry Pi we have to put a big monitor and then we don't have electricity sometimes, so we're wondering. But for the community, Raspberry Pi works because they may have their own television. So this is how we're going to build our network. We've started mapping the homes of the children. And yeah, so Moodle for us is a sociological project and not a technological one. We think that EdTech can really build equity in this community and in many, 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 many small communities all over India. And it's really something required in today's day and age. Otherwise, the only interpretation of technology in rural areas is getting a smartphone and getting WhatsApp and Facebook. And it's really sad because there are so many more powerful tools that all these little rural kids could be using and developing. So this was just a brief presentation and some very quick slides. Though I'd still like you to mull over what I said initially, because this is our own small case study and we will do what we like. But at the end of the day, why are we using Moodle and what is our reason for being in EdTech is something that I thought I would leave this forum. And I do hope we have a 2 to 3 day workshop style MoodleMoot next year. I'm happy to do whatever it is to host it in Mumbai or in a small